Okay, so in this episode of Gav Details, we'll be doing the first modification to the new 2020 AT4, which is a cold air inductions cold air intake. Open the box, well packaged with the styrofoam that covered the entire top. This is the intake tube, instructions. We have the air box in there with all the connections, and then the giant air filter is in this box. So I'm going to set up the camera for the engine bay and just walk through the installation. It's not very hard. From what I've seen, the OEM lower section of the air box actually stays in the truck. So if you have a 2016 5.3 Silverado or Sierra, I have a link or I have a video that I can link above installing the cold air inductions unit for that. And if anybody's interested, you can message me on Instagram, because the old truck is gone and the old intake is available for sale. So we're going to get right into it. I'm going to flip through the instructions and see what kind of tools we need, and we'll resume there. Okay, so this is going to be a warm start and a couple revs. The truck has just over 500 miles and the stock intake. Okay, so as you see here, you're going to need a ratchet, an extension, an 8mm socket, a 10mm socket, a 2.5mm Allen wrench, a 5/16 nut driver, or you can just use a socket for that, and a T20 torx. So, as you can see, the instructions are very well written out. They have color pictures for all of the steps. So we're going to start off with turning the ignition off, disconnect the negative battery cable with a 10mm socket. We're going to disconnect the PCV fitting, which is on the passenger side here, and the kit actually sends you a new one to hook up to the aftermarket intake tube. And then we're going to work on removing this here box first. Okay, so there is a bracket that goes, it connects to the alternator in one of those holes there, and this set of wires has two wire ties, and you need to remove those because, as you can see, they get bolted or snapped into place here, and then this is the 10mm bolt that you need to remove from the factory housing that holds this inlet area section to the alternator. And you can't just pull it out because it has this thing here. So the next part is going to be to remove the mass airflow sensor, which is still on the stock box there. Disconnect the wire harness from the mass airflow sensor. Remove the OEM cover using a ratchet and 8mm socket and extension, and remove all three screws. We're going to remove the upper lid, which is obviously here. Remove the mass airflow sensor using the T20 Torx by removing the two screws holding it in place. And then you're going to put that into the new intake tube. And then the next part is to route the section of the intake tube that goes to the throttle body. Okay, so Cold Air Inductions provides you with a new PCV inlet hose, and then we're going to snap it on that fitting that's right there, and it says which side goes to the inlet, which is this one here. So it's going to go like this. Now you're going to leave this section of the intake loose, but it is fitted onto the throttle body, and then you want to make sure that the PCV valve snaps on both ends, which means that it is secure and not going to come off. Okay, so the next step in the process is to put this massive filter element inside of the box and route it out of the hole here, and then it's going to be to secure the main intake tube to this end of the filter, and then that as an assembly goes onto the factory box and to the other section of the intake. So as you can see, the factory air box stays inside. Here's the connection for the mass airflow, and there's actually a duct inside here which is actually going to be sucking the air down and into the factory box. Okay, so you are going to reuse the factory 3 screws that come in the factory top of the air box. One thing it says here, align the dot on the mass airflow tube to emboss on the filter element. We're talking about this section here. There was no alignment dot on this mass airflow tube, so you just kind of have to play with it a little bit to get it to seat properly so that you have the correct angle into this section of the intake. So this is tight, the filter's in the box. You can see it has a see-through lid, and on the back corner a Cold Air Inductions placard. So then the next thing that you're going to do is tighten down these two here, the one that connects it and secures it to the throttle body, and then this one that connects the mass airflow tube. Okay, so I'm going to make sure all of your clamps are tight. I already retorqued the 3 on the box, and then you want to plug in your mass airflow sensor, which okay, so as I was about to say, you want to reconnect your mass airflow sensor. So I made an adjustment on this boot here to turn it this way a little bit so that the C in the Cold Air CAI here is pretty much right in line here with this section of the throttle body, and that kind of helped give a little bit of slack, push the filter in a little bit, and give you enough room to fit the wiring. And it's not tight, it's got a little bit of slack in it. So All connections are tight. So we'll do a first startup. So it sounds pretty normal on the inside upon startup. I'm going to check for codes. Doesn't sound like there's any air or vacuum leaks. The motor or the engine is still warm, so it's idled down. We'll give it a few revs here. Well, to be honest, the 2016 truck sounded a lot more in terms of like intake tube noise. So I guess we'll have to leave it to the butt dyno, which like I said, I just hit 500 miles. We have plenty of content on this truck coming up. It's going to get a light polish, crystal serum light, and then I'm going to do a video applying EXO the next day. We've got exhaust plans and parts already ordered, because if anybody's seen what the exhaust looks like on these trucks, it's pretty brutal. So I'll get some footage of that before that work gets done, and we'll see how it all comes together. So for a cold air inductions, cold air intake install video, if you like the video, give it a thumbs up, and for more 2020 GMC Sierra AT4 content, please hit the subscribe button. Thanks. Okay, so after a quick test drive with the windows down and the windows up, you can definitely hear a little bit more engine noise. So the truck moves pretty good. It's got the 6.2, so it's got 420 and 460 torque from the factory. So what does a cold air give you? 5, 10, 15? I don't know. It looks cool. And it's installed, so it's going to stay in there. So for this extra outro here, don't forget to hit the subscribe button. Thanks.